Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here in front of this marvelous table full of food and surrounded by such good people and interesting people. And I'm delighted to be here. I'm Monica. I was the founder of the Academic and Nonfiction Authors Association of Anfasa, and it's Anfasa that's been given the opportunity to showcase us, in a sense, to people outside this country, to say something about ourselves and what we do, our writing, and the association itself, and how useful authors' associations can be. But I'm not going to waste your time talking about it. I'm going to let you talk. So I'd like to introduce everybody who's sitting around this table. When Anfasa was given this opportunity, we immediately contacted our good friends, the Right Associates, represented here by Agsa, to help us put this occasion together. So thank you, Rux, for being our partner in this, and we'll speak to you again just now. Sindiwe Magona is a South African. We're all South African authors sitting here, but I'd like to introduce you to Sindiwe, to Lebo Mashire, to Lisa Combrink, to Andries Oliphant. We're all going to sit around and talk while we help ourselves to some of this delicious-looking food. Rux, over to you.
Yeah, and I think perhaps it's proper to just put in an apology for Professor Kurapeze, our National Poet Laureate. He really was committed to come here, but he was not very well. Last night he called, so he won't be able to come, but he's here with us in spirit. As writers, our place in this society, and also our status and the respect of writers in the South African situation and society, but particularly around what we do as writers. We write, we have listenership, readership. When we talk about reading, are we only talking about books? Is social media, does it have a place in our today's society in terms of encouraging and promoting and growing this culture of reading? But also our status and our place in society, referring to are we respected enough? Do we get, as writers, as authors, in different genres, poets, storytellers, novelists, do we get the same respect, not only in terms of, from the moral point of view, but financially, the same way as other artists, especially musicians? So those are some of the points we would want to look at.
To contextualize the context we are in now, if you go back to the years prior to the present, the role South African writers played in bringing to the attention to the world of the problems in our country, writers like Nadine Gordimer, like Breitenbach, Andre Brink, and all the exiled writers like Lewis and Corsi and others, making the world aware of crisis here in South Africa, and the role writers played within the country over the decades to articulate the crisis in our society. And we had expected that with the transition from apartheid to democracy, that the rights of the citizens, all their rights, their human rights, their artistic rights, all these are enshrined in the Constitution, that these would be upheld and developed. At the current juncture, we are going through a process where there's legislation being processed through Parliament affecting the economic status and economic rights of artists. And there are ideas which suggest that the work of writers should be distributed and made accessible to everyone without any royalties. That is a marker of the extent to which the labor and the intellectual rights of artists are undermined. Now this will continue if artists are not organized the way in which that non-fiction authors are organized in Anfasa. We need a huge writers' organization which covers all the art forms, non-fiction, fiction, poetry, theater writing, and narrative writing.
Where there has been freedom of expression, we only have ourselves to blame as writers for being in that position where we are right now. A strong state and a strong government can only be built on a strong civil society. And the question is, have we as writers, and with our failure to build strong national organizations, I have found in my recent experience that more and more young people are interested in books and are interested in writing. And there is this absolute hunger for knowledge, which I last saw in the mid-90s, early and mid-90s. So maybe there's a way in which society renews itself ever so often. And I think the time is now for us to catch that moment in its making and to take it somewhere. And I think that's why the work Monica has been doing has been crucial. She's put the paving stones in place. And now we all have to take it from there and build it further.
The conversation is making the gears in my brain work in so many different directions. I guess I belong to a wave of writers who emerged post-democracy. And I think the unexpected nature of that wave is that it has included a lot of women, a lot of Black women, particularly in poetry. To the extent that I think that the poets who are really shaping the landscape of this art form right now, the ones who are pivotal and taking it in new directions, it's Black women. Which is not necessarily being acknowledged in many ways by the literary mainstream, which, is still controlled very much by white people and has its own kind of hierarchy. But when I go to college campuses or when I go to poetry sessions, any major city in South Africa, that you'll find young people who are engaged in this art form and who are taking it to places that are so imaginative and unexpected. Now you've got young poets who are integrating audio visuals into their poetry, who are taking visuals that they're finding online on the internet, using that as part of their performance art. And it's no one is really examining the kind of multidisciplinary nature of this new poetry, It's still perceived as underground, even though the numbers are not underground, I don't think that my existence would be possible in any other country. And that's a very interesting part of this refashioning of this national identity, is that the role of artists has become, in as much as it was essential to the dismantling of apartheid, it's also become essential to the reimagining of what South Africa can be, in spite of the darkness that we've been going through.
I have children writing.
Yes.
Do I find a publisher? I have women writing about abuse. Do I find a publisher? Publishers, and rightly so perhaps, they're a business. And so they want this kind of book. If you're going to write stories about how I was touched by my mother's boyfriend when I was 4 or 6, that kind of thing, people are writing their stories. We have to find a way of getting them out
into the world.
To affirm the people who write the stories, but also to raise awareness among others, around that people can write their stories.
Because this too is our story.
So let me say something about the academic and non-fiction authors. Anfasa was set up as an organization of academic and non-fiction authors. There were reasons for this because it's a rights-based organization, and the rights of academic and non-fiction authors are most often unduly exploited without permission, more than those of fiction authors. Nonetheless, our programs are relevant for authors of all kinds. And although we're not changing our name, we do welcome into membership all authors. Not just academic and non-fiction authors.
What would you want to input in this discussion around this pivotal role of copyright in terms of advancing the art of writing, and also the kind of naivety and something that we really don't take that seriously as South Africans, particularly writers. The role of collective societies, role of Anfasa and other stuff like that.
You know, Rox and everybody, I sometimes think that at the heart of all this lies a lack of conscientization. And I use this word quite often. I say that our purpose is to conscientize authors and to enable them to feel that they are a professional in a sense, you know. I also talk about the professionalization of writing. That means to, what I mean by that is to regard it as a profession. What do you do for a living? I'm a writer. And everything that you say, that you have said, is part of this conscientization. Where are we in the world? What are our rights? What does the law give us in terms of our rights? What is a collecting society? What do I gain from a collecting society? There's such a lack of knowledge about the context in which writing takes place. And one of the things, Anfasa as an organization has a lot of objectives. But for me personally, one of the greatest objectives, the strongest objectives, is to conscientize authors and to make them recognize what it means to be an author in a society such as that. What is ideology? What am I doing it for? Do I earn a living from this? If I don't, why don't I earn a living from this? And so on. Have I said things that can spur other people to respond to? Because I'm sure you're all looking. I can see that, you know, what I'm saying has hit the spot with a lot of people around the table. Others will have something to say about that. All I want to say in closing from my side is thank you so much for coming along and talking, and how stimulating it's been. We're all thinking like crazy and getting ideas. We're conscientizing ourselves, and now we have to take it further and conscientize everybody else. So over to you all to carry on in the last few seconds we have.
Yeah, may I? I can respond only with a poem, a very short poem.
Please do that.
Which goes like this. Do words die? Are letters dead? Conversations unconsummated? Talks disrupted and dismissed? Dialogue severed? Love left dismembered, its throat cut. Are scrolls rolled up, poems unread, centuries of papyrus unsaid, left to decay and rot. But in this silence, void of words, sapped of love, still we beat our drum.
Fike khaya kumama ko jaga wiyanga tiso tinina Fike khaya ebantwaneni ba kubo tata bagabuyanga